So this morning we are privileged to have a church that is very full of variety, let me say that. So you came and of course there's a sermon you're waiting for, and we will start from there. But we are going to start with something else, and then we are going to move to, you will see as we flow. It's Mother's Day. And I wonder by show of hands how many people have even contacted their mothers. Oh, super. And there are those who forgot and are just like, oh, I forgot, and perhaps you will plan to do so. Very important. Yet it's also very important for us to address issues around the same. And so this morning we are privileged to have 5 panelists who are going to be speaking to us. And I am going to call them forward. Bear with us as we tackle a very, very sensitive issue, yet very important that we do so to move forward. So I will ask Mr. Chalwa, who is representing the married men, to come forward. I would also request Anik, who is representing the millennials. Ali, who is representing the Gen Z. And Anne, who is representing the single parents. I will be representing the married woman. Let's push back a bit. Right, so this morning, we are going to be tackling an area that is very crucial to look at. And we are looking at mother wounds. Mother wounds. And the people gathered here will not be speaking on their behalf only. They are representing different generations. They are representing different status. So as you hear them speak, perhaps from experience, perhaps from the people they have interacted with, let's see what we can pick from it, learn, and grow. And so I will ask a few questions. We will answer them, and hoping that at the end of it, we will be a more healed congregation, ready to forge forward with what God has for us. So my first question to just generally the panelists here, hoping that I've introduced you, but you can still say your names. What does the term mother wound mean to you personally or in your community? And anyone is free to start. Mother wound. You have your mics? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to all the ladies in church. My name is Sami Chalwa, husband to one wife. She's not in today. She's unwell. And I have 2 boys and 2 girls as my children. Mother wounds. You know, we've grown up, or we've been raised to know that mothers are usually a symbol of empathy. And so that's what we expect out of mothers. And where that expectation is not met, somehow it strains a relationship between a child and his or her mother. And so it actually comes from that strained relationship. It's a psychological, it's emotional hurt that emanates from that sort of relationship. And that's my understanding of mother wound.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chalwa, that actually the pain, the strained relationship that is there between a child and a mother. I don't know if anybody has a different definition. Anybody?
Maybe I can go. My name is Ali Mangale. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. And maybe just to add or to build up on what my brother there has shared, is just most of the time it's not intended. It's not intended. It comes out of, it's mostly past, you know, from the issues that you learned that were not correct, and you took them as the reality, and then you transfer that to your children, and we end up suffering because of what you have not processed. Could be the emotional trauma, could be the physical pain that you went through, and so you pass it from your child, from yourself to your child, unintendedly. I think that is something I felt I should highlight. Thank you.
Very, very important. Thank you, Ali. Our mothers mother the way they were mothered and the things they went through. If we come from that understanding, then we are able to kind of diminish what is going on. So thank you, Ali, for bringing in that. I don't know if there's any other, or I go to number 2. Right. Have you experienced or observed mother wounds in your life or those around you? Anyone? This is generally. Have you experienced or have you seen others and you're like, this must be mother wounds?
Okay, good morning. My name is Anne Wafula, a single mom of a 21-year-old boy. And I'd say I have experienced mother wounds because the things my mother passed through were so tough because I come from a polygamous family. My dad had 5 wives. So there are things my mom experienced and it made her raise us in a particular way. Where we used to stay, my mom was called a disciplinarian. And that kind of trickled down to me. At times, the first few years of me raising my son, I was too strict on him. Looking back, I always tell myself, I wish I had done it differently. Yeah, so I have experienced it firsthand, and to some point, I extended it to my son.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that resonates with very many of us, that what we saw our mothers do, we thought was the best, even when we didn't like what they were doing to us, but we picked it up. So thank you, Anne, for sharing that so candidly. Anne, Anik?
Hi, I'm Aniko Chola. I would say I have experienced mother wounds, and I've also seen people who've experienced mother wounds. Personally, mine is abandonment or rejection. When I was in class 7, and I share with Anne, I'm also from a polygamous family, so polygamy has issues with motherhood and fatherhood all in one. So my mother, who used to live in Mombasa, and my dad, decided that I was now to go back in the upcountry and live with my stepmothers. So I was partially raised by my stepmothers during the formative age, that is as from class 7 until 20 years of age. So I lived with them and with step brothers and sisters. And I grew up with a lot of boys because most of my father's children are men. Apparently in my traditional culture, men had, if you had a boy, you're wealthy. And having girls meant, culturally, you're not man enough, kind of, quote unquote. So growing up with boys tamed me differently, and with stepmoms away from my mother, I felt like I was rejected by both my mother and father. So I lived with my stepmom, who was a kind of laissez-faire parent. She didn't even care about her children. So how was she supposed to care about me? So I kind of raised myself up. I had to find a way of going to school, whether you like it or not. She didn't care whether you go to school or not. And nobody really cared much. So it was a push for me from age 7 until some good age. Though, so we survived. Yeah, so I felt mother wound. So growing up afterwards, when I was 20, then reunited with my mom, it became so difficult gelling or bonding together. So it was a fight. This one is fighting for control. I'm also fighting for control because I raised myself. I know how things are supposed to be, and she also raised herself, and we are both firstborn. So there was that tug of war for a very long time. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Anik, for sharing that very openly. And we can see how we get affected by what happens within family, and the separation comes in. And thank you for sharing that. As you stand here, we may not see, but you are aware, and that's the beginning of healing. Right, so maybe we can ask one more question generally. How do mother wounds impact one view of self? And not only self, relationships, and even God.
I would say, from my side, even as I share how it impacts, I would say the pressure to become is what really I suffered being a firstborn. And at one point, you realize the pressure becomes so much. You know, the mother tells you you are the one who should deliver. You know, if you fail, that means those who are coming after you, you know, they'll be justified to fail. So I think at one point it led into mental health issues. I didn't know by then, but I almost, while in high school, I almost got into a place where a part of my left side will not function because of the pressure. You know, I wake up at 3, I sleep at around 11. I have this pressure to ensure that I become something. You know, I want to impress my mom. I look at the investment she's doing. All this, from her side, it's very clean. You know, you can do it and everything. So the pressure. And at one point, the voice of my mother became so loud in my living. You know, I will be in a place, and even in a normal interaction, I'll find myself, I want to do something to make a decision, but that voice comes and, you know, you just stop it, you know. And there are things we will want to try growing up as children, and it reaches a point you can't do. Because when you combine the caning and the voice that always comes out, even at an adult age where I'm in the university, I would be forced, you know, the voice was so loud. So I would say issues around low self-esteem. I couldn't interact well with people. I was always in the library wanting to do something. So in one point, in terms of interaction, I look out as a strong guy, you know, this outgoing person, but then that was as a result of counseling and therapy. I was really a person who could not come out and articulate issues. I would say, it's okay. You know, I wouldn't want to engage in conversation for long because I was like, for me, it's one thing, get it done. So, yeah.
You know, many times you look at mother wounds and associate it with ladies. And so when you get gentlemen being able to express what they went through, then it really is a wake-up call for all of us to really get to that place and touch base with that place in your heart where you feel mama's voice rings up to now. You may be married, but it's still going on in the head. So it's good you sought help, and being a child of God also, you realized your place. But it's important to discuss it. Thank you, Ali, for that. Thank you. So let me just go to the individuals and just ask maybe one question or so. I know we would have loved to stay here forever, but let's just, so that we move to the next agenda. But I'll go to you, Anne, and ask you, as a single mother, how do you navigate the pressure of being both a nurturer and a disciplinarian because of the mother wounds within yourself? And are there lessons that you have learned now as a result of the mother wounds? And how has that influenced you as a parent? Maybe just combine those two.
Thank you for the question. Being a single parent is not easy, especially when you have to play the role of father and mother. And considering so many aspects of society, considering so many aspects in terms of your career. I'm a career woman, by the way. And it came a time that I wanted my son to grow in a particular way, because I wanted to see something in him that I did not see in myself. And growing up, my mom used to say, I want you to reach the point I never reached. You see? So I worked extra hard. I did so well in my academics, and to a point that it reached a point, because of the struggles my mom was going through raising us, I was not able to go to university at that time. So I had to scale down. But then now, raising my son, I want to be that mother, and I want to be the disciplinarian. It reached a point, especially when my son got to teenagehood. It was tough, because now you're trying to show him the world from a Christian perspective, from a mother's perspective, and from a father's perspective. But I thank God that though it was difficult, God brought along some people who were able to step in and be the father figure for him, to handle at least those sensitive areas I could not handle. Because there was a time I was like, now, how do I explain this thing to this boy? How do I even start? You know, there are those topics. Yeah, but I thank God even for the youth ministry, by the way. The youth ministry did an awesome job in my son's life. If you don't draw the line between nurturing and disciplining, there is a danger of you having, what can I say? There's a danger of you leaning on one side and in the process losing your child. And you see, society has this, huyu ni mtoto wa single mom. What did you expect? You know. So I don't want that said of my son. So I have to sometimes put on a very harsh face, a very harsh attitude towards him. And people say my son has grown so fast, but it's because of the things he had to pass through. So it's because of the things he has to pass through. And those who have interacted with him, they usually say, your son usually tells us, weh, mamangu, if she doesn't like something, the look she will give you. Yeah? So, but the disciplining part, it reached a point I could not, you know, we are told spare the rod and spoil the child, yeah? But when he was growing up, it reached a point I could not spank him, because now he's taller than me. I look at him like this, yeah? But I tell him, if you fail in life, remember, you are showing how bad a parent I am. So it's a choice you have to make. You either make yourself to be someone that people will look at and say, yes, circumstances happened, your parents divorced, but you came out strong, you came out someone that society can look up to. And I usually tell him, whatever happens, never ever forget God, because God has been with us all these years. We separated and divorced with his dad when he was 1 year old. And it has not been a walk in the park. So if you're there contemplating divorce, please think about your child. It has not been easy. So this boy has grown up seeing me as the mother and the father. Discipline, he has to learn to discipline himself now, because he's not with me anymore. He's in university. He's not with me. But the foundation of put in his life, I pray and trust God that they will hold him through to where God has intended him to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that is quite deep, and what you put in has bore fruit at the end of the day. It may not have been easy. People still may have pointed fingers, but look at where he is, charting his own life. So thank you for sharing that. Maybe I'll go to Sami Chalwa and maybe ask you 2-3 questions, combine them. Has mother wounds affected your emotional, I don't know whether to call it development? Are you able to be vulnerable around your wife? Did you know others, maybe not necessarily you, but as men you talk, as married men, you talk about these things. And I know men talk business and work and cars, but I'm sure there are those circles where you have the boys club and you talk about deep issues like this. Do you feel like the mother wounds affected you or your friends' emotional development and how to connect with their spouse and children? Were there things like that that would come out in conversations? Are they able to say, look, I feel fearful, that vulnerable? And then what advice would you give to men who are struggling as you wrap?
Thank you. I'll just give some sort of a background. I've experienced motherhood, not basically directly, but my mom got married off when she was 15. I'm the second born, so she basically gave birth to me at 17. And I grew up knowing her as a very bitter mother, and I only came to know the reasons way later. So when when her mother got married, she actually got married to the grandmother, got married to the grandfather, and she had 2 daughters, my mother being one of them, the second born. So when she got married to this family, she was seen more as an asset. So she was actually married off so that they could find cattle to educate now the daughters of the family. And because of this, she grew up hating everybody in that family, including her stepsisters now. And we never knew why. She could go through lots, but she will never leave home. So she will stay there and she'll, I want to be here for you. The second thing we realized that she actually was scared of giving birth to daughters. And she could say it. She said, oh God, I wish, because we are 8 of us. And when she was giving birth to our younger brother and daughters, I was actually fairly mature and we could have that conversation. Now, later in life, we actually talked to her and we really wanted to understand what was behind all this bitterness. And she said she believed that her mother was in a position to save her. She believed that she was bright and she would have had a better future. And she felt very much let down because of that. So she was not forgiving. she actually got saved. She was a church lady, but we realized that she was not restless. She could move from church to church. It took us time. And you see, the fact that we came of age to understand what she went through and how actually what she went through affected her. Now, so what I'll say from that is that actually the first healing point is to share, because she never shared, because I think she thought nobody will understand her. And the fact that we didn't know why she was doing that, we also grew some tendencies of avoiding being around her. I was basically brought up by my dad when I was 8. He took me and I was going home just oftenly because of such things. But then, for us men, what I've realized that we brought up to be tough, not to share. And I have learned to share. And one of the things I'm saying here is that the things, these are experiences that I share with my wife. The reason why I share with my wife is that if I was to do anything, she may help me try to find if there's a connection between what I'm doing and probably what I witnessed or what I went through. And we've been very open with each other. There's no secret. If I believed that if God has given me this lady, this woman to spend my life with, then she needs to know who I am and where I'm coming from. And I think that has helped me so much, because sometimes when I develop such tendencies, why it affected me is that the fact that I had to be brought up by a man, a father, the men of those days. I can for sure tell you I knew how to cook fish when I was 7. And I knew how to be independent. So what does that mean? That if I wake up and I can't even say I need tea, I'll just go and make tea. Because I believe I can do things for myself. But you're not doing it because you want to do it, because you say, okay, kama hawezi fanya naweza jifanyia. There's nothing that I can't do. Naweza pika, naweza joshea nguo, ajalishi ni nguo aina gani. And without complaining, you just do it because you're used to doing it. It's not something to whine about. You just do it. But then I realized that it's important to leave your spouse to perform their function. And just because you can do everything does not mean that you are a good husband. You have to do it out of love, not out of protest. So what I've learned is share deeply. Let them understand where you're coming from. Sasa ukikimbia jikoni najua huyu amekumbuka mambo ya mama yake. And then maybe she'll come and we'll cook together, not necessarily telling me to leave, but you create that atmosphere. And then again, we monitor each other to make sure that whatever past we had, we don't translate that to our kids, because she's also shared what she's gone through. And we monitor each other and say, then you just come back to your senses. So yeah, for men, I know it's tough. We don't share these things. But the first healing is sharing. Sometimes we don't even go to counseling, because I know when I lost my dad, people advised me to go for counseling. Say, Yanini, I can manage this. But then I broke down after 2 months. Look for friends. You don't have necessarily, if you're not ready to go for counseling, always have friends. Because I've also realized with men, we categorize friends. We group friends. Kuna friend ule tunaongea naye biashara, kuna ule wa kazi. It depends on what we are sharing. So amongst your friends, look for a friend you can trust. A friend you can share. You don't have to share everything in details. But I've realized that when you share, healing is guaranteed. And then the other thing is actually trusting in God. Because what I realized that when my mother was moving from church to church, she sort of actually got saved. But I don't think she had faith in God, because she had lost that faith, which she hoped. I mean, she had lost the love and compassion, faith in love and compassion, because she thought she can't get it, because the people she believed will give it to her failed her. So she thought, hii ni watu wengine, it's not for me. So if she experiences love kidogo kwa kanisa, and then something happens, then she said, kumbe wote ni sawa. She just moves on to another one and tries to find it another way. So it takes extra grace for those who have gone through this to find love and compassion, even in Christ. And what they need from us is total support, not judgment. Thank you.
Thank you. a very rare gem that you can find the man waking up and making the tea and ironing his shirt. Na bila maneno, not because umekata. I think you should start a club here for many. Not naming names. Now, let's go to Ali, who represents the Gen Z. We must agree that generations are different in the way they respond to their mother's love and their mother's attachment. The way we responded was different. We were silent. We took it as it was. The way the Gen Zs respond is different. And Ali, I'm asking, how do you process it differently from others, if at all? And I know social media comes in a big, big way. Has it helped or complicated issues concerning emotional healing when it comes to those bonds? And what do you wish us to know who are in the older generations concerning this? 3 in 1. I hope you can remember them.
Well, thank you so much. I think as I sit here, I'm learning a lot from you, sir. The issue around doing almost everything. I think I'm a victim. I need to do something even before I get married. But yes, I think for us, one of the things is we have given emotional vocabulary to all these things that we are going through, especially online. It is in our generation where we actually talk things out. If I have an inner child wound, I will speak it out. I will communicate, and I'll not be scared. I think the difference is in that we have gained a lot of confidence to talk about what we are going through. And you've touched about social media. I think it's a tool that we've used a lot. If you go to TikTok right now, if you go to Instagram, if you go to all these other social media pages, blogs, people are talking about their childhood trauma and what could be both parents did to them. And they are coming out very strongly. We are coming out very strongly to share. And, it's very easy to be labeled as a generation, even after what we did last year. It came with good things, but also anything wrong you do, it said what? The Gen Z, because of the confidence. And, when you are vocal out here, when you have that confidence to share what you are going through, what you're feeling, when people misinterpret it, it becomes an issue. So the use of social media for us has really helped us. Building communities of healing. You actually go online and there are different hashtags. I'm sure Mother's Wound is a hashtag that could be trending, and everyone is talking about that. They are sharing their stories of what their mother did and how they have been processing that. So building a community of healing where I go to people who have actually gone through that, and they're sharing their stories. Now, the complication with that is one, people have oversimplified things, especially online. A trauma that maybe has been with you for over 25 years, or a wound that has been with you over 25 years. Imagine someone does a video of probably 60 minutes, and they're almost sharing that. And so sometimes it becomes difficult for people to actually process that. Like, how is it that you went through a trauma for over 25 years, 20 years, and now you are here sharing a story within 60 minutes, and you're sharing all that package. So we have oversimplified the depth of the pain that we go through. And so that makes it complicated. Sometimes we have quacks, a lot of quacks online, giving a lot of information, and they are not trained. They are not qualified. So the danger is that also we consume a lot of content that is not, it's out of personal experience, but not out of professional and expertise for a long time. So a lot of quacks outside here are really, they are sharing, it's a good thing, but then it also makes us at one point consume content that is not helping us, continues to harm us even as we continue with this.
For those employing this generation, anyway, we have no choice because they are the generation, currently 70% in Kenya. I think the elections will be interesting to watch. you need to know they work from the heart. They don't work from here. So you damage the heart at work, you tell them off in such a way, they pack their bags and go. That's how they operate. And that has helped them to unpack a lot of things, but I like that you are aware that there are many quacks out there, but you're naming those things. This is what I am going through, unlike a lot of other generations that hid those things. Thank you, Ali, for sharing in such a way. And maybe to wind up with Anik, as a millennial, you came before this generation, the Gen Z. You came in at the onset of technology really taking root. And how have you approached the journey of healing as a millennial? And how do you balance the empathy at the same time, you know, for your mother's struggles? Have you sought healing? Maybe you can share that.
Thank you. I would begin with the empathy part. Most of the time, I didn't know what happened. And I used to complain so much why I was transferred from Mombasa to home. So asking questions has been one of the things I would ask. I'm an inquisitive person. I was as a child too. So I would ask, why me? Why is it that I'm living with some other people's mothers? And Mom told me that when you grow up, when you'll be able to understand, we will talk about these things. So when we sat down one day, it was not even planned, so things just started coming out. And I'm a firstborn, gotten after 9 years in marriage, almost a decade. So there was a struggle before getting me. So Mom clung to me because I was the only thing that was hope. Back then, if you remember well culturally, if you're married and not getting a child, you were disgraced. So she was battling disgrace in the family, in the community at large, and battling the fact that she didn't have a job. She had dropped out of school at Form 2, and also battling the fact that she's now having one child, and the child is being taken away from her. So there were lots of battles between me and her and my dad. My dad had a lot of children, so it was not a battle. This is just one of them. So she is a girl. She can go back home. So it was that battle. So she was battling emotionally, that she was being left childless again, apparently. And she had also lost a sibling of mine who had immediately followed me. So she was battling a lot. There was death, there was abandonment, also rejection on her side. But I understand from her point of view. And the fact that I was home, she tried as a mother. That I would give it to her. She ensured that from the entire primary school, I had textbooks, thanks to her. All textbooks. I was the only kind of rich kid back at home. I had all textbooks. English, mathematics, Swahili, and history. All throughout my education. She made sure that every Christmas, I had 2 dresses, one for Christmas and one for New Year, and a pair of shoes that go with it. She didn't even know my size. She would still send. And all the other things that I needed. And I was the best dressed child around the village. She made sure that all those things were catered for. I had everything that I needed back then, except her presence. So I understand as an adult that it was out of her hand. She didn't have a job. She was battling her own issues to ensure that she was becoming also a mother. So there are different mothers to every child. My siblings can't tell the same story I am telling. She's a different mother to them. She was a different mother to me. So I respect the fact that I was mothered differently, even with my stepmothers. And I was kind of held like an egg because I was one for a very long time, until 10 years later. The brother you see of mine, the sibling, we have a 10 years difference, by the way. Yes, and then the twins, we have a 15-year difference. So there's a lot of different motherhood faces with us. So I extend a lot of grace to her because she also had issues with getting pregnant. So she didn't do any family planning, but the family planned itself the way it came. So I understand her, I show her grace for that. And I love the fact that she was bold enough to even share all this. And the fact that she suffered in my family's hands. Bado naambiwa mpaka leo, watu wenu. because I carry their blood. But I extend grace right now. And millennials find motherhood differently because we were people who would sulk. I've been hurt, so I take it in. You know, I make sure I work hard. So we would work hard. We compensated it with education, with being seen, also being in control, and doing things so that iyo kitu iende. And that thing was skin deep. So it was a trauma passed on. So there's a story, just a minute, I'll tell it in 1 minute, about a lady whose husband asked her one day, why do you cook fish with the tail and cut? And she said, my mother used to do that. And she said, okay, let me just ask my mother why every time I cook fish, I cut the tail end. So she asked the mother, Mom, why do you cook fish without the tail end? You have to cut it. My mother used to do that. And then the grandmother was asked, why did you do that? Then they realized that, you know, the grandma told them, my pot was little. I had a small pot. That's why I used to cut the tail end so that the fish would fit the pot. But the mother, who was learned and different, in a different generation, couldn't figure out what was happening. That's how we transfer trauma. So trauma was transferred from one generation to another without knowing that these other generations had the tools to heal the trauma. So they had bigger pots, but they would still cut the tail end. So that is what happened to millennials. We have the big pot. We know what is supposed to be done. We know that they are canceling this church. Like for us, there's also Motherwise, and there was also a Woman of Peace, I hear. So things that church has brought together for us to heal. But we still cook our fish in the small pot. This is my trauma. This is the trauma that I got from my mother. This is my wound I have to deal with. Yet there are all avenues out here to help us heal this. So even as Gen Z come, we already had the idea. We were only cooking from a small pot. So, so we can now cook from a bigger pot, knowing that we have help from the church. We have help from even workplace counseling. Yeah, so yes, we are be gracious enough to us so that we don't pass this trauma to other people. And there's also this one thing that trauma is past. You may never know, and may we deal with people with grace, because most of us are dealing with us from the point of triggers. You trigger someone's trauma, kumbe ndio maana anakujibu vibaya. But may we hear with our ears, not with our triggers, and help people heal. If you find a Nick doing things that are not supposed to be done, you can help her with that trauma. So you can only help her if you're also healed. So trauma and healed is trauma transferred.
You can know millennials anywhere. They have everything organized in a row like this to say it. Actioning it is another thing. I have one in my house. Right. Maybe to close. For the married women, I've not ignored. I will still address it in one way or another as we go on. But to close, just with one question, and one person can answer it. What would you tell somebody seated here? And they feel unseen. They feel unloved because of a faltered relationship with their mother. And to date, they are walking around with that. Who would want to say something? Just one person? In the interest of time. Anne?
Okay, what I would say is there's still hope. God is still able to mend that thing that hurts you the most. Release it to Him and allow Him to transform you to cover for that pain and that gap that you feel. Thank you.
All right. Because of time, we may not cover all that we intended to. But I believe that we've gotten a gist of something. For those of us who've walked with a load on our shoulders for such a long time, you may have said, that's my story. I actually understand where this one is coming from. And all we are saying is that we're in the right place because the healer who sees wants to do his work. So we are going to allow the Lord to do his work. And so as we feel those mother wounds, we are going to express forgiveness and start afresh knowing that we are whole and we can move on with our lives. So at this juncture, I really want to thank the panelists who took time to come here and open up their lives to all of you and share deep things and for you to understand mother wounds in a better way. So can we give them all a hand as they all take their seats? Thank you so much, and God bless you for all that you've done.